Please join me in giving a warm GGC welcome, a Grizzly welcome to the Honorable David Shafer.
Thank you for that very generous introduction. It's a tremendous privilege for me to be with you today. I'm reminded of today of the very first speech I ever gave in the summer of 1989 on the first day of my first job. I was hired to be a campaign worker for Billy Lovett, who was a member of the Georgia Public Service Commission who was running for insurance commissioner in the elections, the 1990 elections the next year. I was hired to be his driver. And on the first day on the job, I picked him up at his offices, or I went to his offices at the Public Service Commission to pick him up and take him to a speech that he was supposed to give at lunch at the Holiday Inn at Snapfingers Woods Drive in South DeKalb County. But when I arrived, he came out of the Public Service Commission hearing room, and he said that the hearing was going to continue through lunch and that they were going to vote on a rate increase when the lunch hour was over, and he was not going to be able to make the speech. Well, this was many years before cell phones, so I told him, don't worry, I'll go down to your secretary's office and I will call ahead to the hotel and I will let them know that you are not coming. And he said, no. He said, we can't do that. He said, you have got to go and make the speech for me. Well, I had met this man exactly one time before in my life. I had never heard him give a speech. I didn't know anything about the Georgia Public Service Commission or the Insurance Commissioner's office for that matter. And I think he sensed my discomfort because he said, don't worry, he said, the speech is all written out for you. He said, you just need to read it. And so I went down to his secretary's office and she gave me the speech. It was a single laminated note card that had 3 sentences on it. One was firm but fair regulator, one was lower insurance costs, and the third sentence was simply one word, efficiency. And she scribbled out the name of the group and the directions to the meeting. It was the DeKalb Association of Life Underwriters. And for those of you who don't know, a life underwriter is someone who sells life insurance. Well, I looked at her handwriting and I could have sworn that she wrote the DeKalb Association of Undertakers. And so as I am driving to this hotel room, trying to plan out what I was going to say on top of these 3 sentences, I am thinking that I am speaking to a group of people who I believe to be funeral home directors. And I start my speech with a joke that I had remembered from the Reader's Digest about funeral homes, and not a single person in the audience laughed. And it occurred to me years later that people, that they don't call life insurance death insurance for a reason. People who sell life insurance are sensitive about the whole subject of death and dying to begin with. Well, the only thing that I had, the only life experience at age 22 that I had to draw on was that as my church youth group had done a 9-week course on death and dying. And so I immediately began walking through each of the 9 seminars, culminating with our visit to the Oglethorpe and Son Funeral Home in Chamblee, where they took us on a tour and showed us the drains where they did the embalming in the basement. And I look out and I have completely lost this group of people, and there's pockets of hostility that are beginning to develop. And I had the presence of mind to stop talking and get out the note card, and I read the 3 sentences. Billy Lovett will be a firm regulator, lower insurance costs, and efficiency. About a year and a half later, it's the weekend before the 1990 general election, and I am sent to the Georgia Association of Life Underwriters Convention. And I wasn't on the program to speak, but they recognized me in the audience as being there on behalf of the campaign. And a guy came up to me afterwards and he says, I remember you. He said, you spoke to my DeKalb Underwriters Association the summer before last. And I nodded amiably. And he said, you worked for the campaign. And I nodded. And he said, we were convinced for the longest time that you have been sent to sabotage the campaign. Today, of course, I have the benefit of knowing who I'm speaking to. It's the 2017 summer commencement of Georgia Gwinnett College. Commencement literally means point of beginning. I know the definition of that word because 30 years ago, the speaker at my commencement defined the word for me, and I remember it 30 years later because at the time it surprised me. I guess if I had thought about it, I knew that the word commence meant to start or to begin, but all the time leading up to commencement, in my mind, I was viewing commencement as a very welcome end to my formal education. But commencement means a point of beginning. And in the nomenclature of academia, it's the point at which you leave your alma mater and begin your life. Alma mater, of course, means the place you went to college, but in the original Latin, its literal meaning is nurturing mother. In the first draft of this speech, I was to spend a good amount of time expounding on Georgia Gwinnett College as a nurturing mother, and today as the beginning of your life away from her. But when I read that first draft back to myself, it struck me, frankly, as ridiculous. Maybe the nomenclature made sense 300 years ago when the term alma mater was first applied to institutions of education and college graduating classes were populated by highly privileged 16-year-olds who had been tutored at home and then sent off to college to complete their educations and begin their lives. Maybe it made sense 50 years ago when the age of majority was 21 and colleges acted in loco parentis, in the place of the parents. But it certainly doesn't make sense today, not really anywhere, but definitely not at Georgia Gwinnett College, which is at the cutting edge of delivering higher education in the 21st century. Not one of you here came to this institution as a child. In fact, according to the research that the college provided me as I was preparing for this speech, a large number of you here came here with what the college described as significant family responsibilities. Maybe you were already a parent or acting as a parent to a younger sibling. Maybe you were caring for a parent or another loved one. But your days of being nurtured were over. Most of you worked your way through this college or worked here for a long time before you came to this institution. Nearly half of you, the college tells me, worked 20 hours a week while taking classes and doing homework. You have been paying taxes and discharging adult responsibilities for years before your commencement here today. I worked summers and holidays when I was in college. I did it because it was important to my dad. We made my stepson work when he went through college. His first job was in the dining halls at the University of Georgia, and he absolutely hated it. But it was good for him. Without a job, most college students have more time on their hands than is good for them. And you will learn that successful people in life go to bed tired. So let's talk a moment about your time here at Georgia Gwinnett College. The real value of this place, of this marvelous institution, is not the knowledge that you acquired here or that you memorized to pass the tests or complete the term papers. The real value of this institution is in the improvement that it made to you. A liberal arts education teaches you how to think, how to learn, how to see things as a whole, how to collaborate, to work with others. It teaches you to thrive whatever the circumstance. What made you stronger here at Georgia Gwinnett College was not the nurture, but the struggle, the challenge of completing your academic studies while leading a real adult life. Commencement speeches, and I have read a few in preparing for today, are filled with much more advice than they're filled with wisdom. And I spent a lot of time thinking about what advice, if any, I would give you today. I want to share with you a couple of pieces of advice. My dad told me that the world belonged to those who got up early. That is not advice that I wanted to hear or believe, but I can tell you that it is absolutely true. The other piece of advice I would give you is to never be discouraged. That's not the same thing as never giving up. Sometimes you should give up. You're not going to win every battle, and sometimes the battle is not worth being fought. Just do not let the setbacks in your life discourage you. The third piece of advice I'd give you is to treat everybody you come across in life as a friend or as a future friend. This is a lesson that I learned in politics. I cannot tell you how many times today's opponent will be tomorrow's friend. So do not hold grudges. They serve absolutely no purpose whatsoever. And the final thing I would say to you is that learning is a lifetime occupation. Today is an important milestone for you. The degree you earn today is something is rightly a source of pride. But it's not the end of your schooling. Life itself is a schoolhouse. And you will learn that while the acquisition of knowledge is important, the mastery of facts and figures and formulas, and the development of skills is important as well, the development of skills from the mastery of that knowledge, there is something more important, and that is the discovery of wisdom, a word that means at its Greek root the ability to see or know the way. The good book says, "Blessed are those who find wisdom, those who gain understanding." That is the prayer I pray for you today. Congratulations, summer class of 2017. Wherever you go from here, Godspeed.